All weekend in New England with blue skies and still summer-like sunshine at historic Fenway Park in Boston as Derek Jeter's last days in uniform wind down. His home finale Thursday night will go down as one of the game's most perfect final acts. After Baltimore had tied the game in the top of the ninth, the Yankee captain and future Hall of Famer had one last at-bat in front of the home crowd and delivered the game winner. Another in a series of brilliant moments and a fitting way for number 2 to say goodbye to Yankee Stadium. Derek Jeter is in the lineup this afternoon in Boston, DHing and batting second as we welcome you inside the broadcast booth at historic Fenway Park with John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian. Rarely do you talk about the Yankees and Red Sox in the fall and there not being something on the line. And though both teams are mathematically eliminated from the postseason hunt, there is a lot on the line today. It's all about Derek Jeter.
Yeah, and it really is. Ever since he made the announcement he was going to retire, the normally emotionally in-check Derek Jeter last Thursday might have had an out-of-body experience when it came to emotion. You can't plan these things, but Derek Jeter personifies what being a captain, what being a class act in baseball is. And in a park where Fenway fans normally jeer the Yankee players, this one day he'll be cheered like no other, really in respect for his career.
Promises to be an emotional, terrific afternoon of baseball here at Fenway. Derek Jeter bats when we come back from break. Starting lineups and opening pitch are next. Afternoon for baseball in Boston. Derek Jeter set to DH this afternoon, not take the field, as he announced after that dramatic home finale on Thursday. He wants his enduring image of playing shortstop to be at home, and he didn't want to look at that shortstop position from any place other than Yankee Stadium for the rest of his life.
Yeah, pretty unique. Everything he's done is very thoughtful and certainly respect for the game, and you could tell that he was very emotional on Thursday. He wanted that last vision to be at shortstop at Yankee Stadium, where he played his entire career. And what a fitting way, and one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports, to end his career here in Boston and to do it as a DH, the luxury of the American League.
You know, there was so much anticipation here at Fenway Park before the game. It started in the morning. When was Derek Jeter going to arrive? Was he going to announce plans for tomorrow? Because it's still unclear what role, if any, he'll play in the season finale tomorrow. But we do know this much, that whether they're wearing a Yankee cap or a Red Sox cap here this afternoon, a great deal, if not the overwhelming majority of fans in the ballpark here today are here specifically to see that guy, number 2.
They sure are. And again, a hostile crowd towards Yankee players. They will not be hostile towards number 2. I think the respect of everything that he's done, pivotal in everything that the Yankees have been part of, and he finds himself at the right place at the right time. And you know what? When you plan something like this, you got to expect that comes with it all the fanfare at the end and all the attention. He's probably exhausted. I mean, literally exhausted, but he's going to play these last 2, or at least this game, with the same respect he did when he first got here in 1996.
Yeah, the series began last night, of course, and Derek Jeter did not play in the opener of the series on Friday, and we talked to Joe Girardi about that before the game today. He said, look, after the emotion of Thursday, and you're talking about a human being after all, a 40-year-old man who didn't get to bed until 4 and then didn't sleep at all once he got himself to bed. He needed a day to kind of get his wits about him yesterday. It was an emotional night on Thursday. Derek took the day yesterday and watched from the bench. He will DH this afternoon. Let's get you right to the Yankees Taco Bell starting lineup. Sometimes you got to live Moss. 10-time All-Star Ichiro Suzuki, perhaps playing his final weekend in the big leagues as well. He'll lead off today. Jeter bats second. Brian McCann will catch in bat number 3. Switch hitting first baseman Chase Headley hits in the cleanup spot. Chris Young and Stephen Drew follow 5 and 6. Jose Barrella, Brandon Ryan, and Yuri Perez round things out for the Yankees. Well, on the mound for the Red Sox, making his final assignment of 2014, former Cardinal right-hander Joe Kelly.
I got to believe there's a little bit of butterflies for him when he faces Derek Jeter, but a big part of the rotation for the future. They made the big trade. Joe Kelly, of course, he's got some really good stuff. They're going to extend him out in the next few years and see if he can be a mainstay in this rotation. But I got to imagine when number 2 is announced, there's going to be some anxious moments for Joe Kelly, realizing that one of the greatest to play the game he will be linked with as one of his final games here at Fenway Park.
You know, so much has been said and written about the drama Thursday night in the Bronx, and at the end of it, it's still hard to get your head around, John, how many things had to converge in the 8th and 9th innings in that game to give Derek Jeter the opportunity for one last at-bat, something nobody thought was coming with a 2-run lead in the 9th. And then for him to cash in vintage Jeter fashion with an opposite field base hit. I mean, you couldn't have scripted a more perfect end to a home career.
No, you couldn't, and you can't plan those things. That's why when he's always ready for the moment. And yeah, just like Michael Jordan missed a lot of game-winning shots, he was always ready to take that shot. And I believe Derek Jeter in the game of baseball is as close as we have to Michael Jordan in the sense of clutchness and the fact that this guy really wants to play and has planned a career with one organization that not a lot of guys get to do.
The Yankees had it all planned out on Thursday. Had the game ended in any other way than it ended up ending, if that makes any sense.
It does to me.
Joe Girardi and the Yankees clubhouse guys cooked up the idea to have Derek do a victory lap, and then Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, and Mariano Rivera would be there with him as he got to home plate. All that got pushed aside because, as it turned out, no scripting was necessary. So we're ready for baseball this afternoon. Ichiro ready to lead things off against right-hander Joe Kelly. And the first pitch of the afternoon. A ball and no strikes to Ichiro. We will be getting into other things this afternoon, aside from the Derek Jeter farewell weekend. Most notably, the future directions of 2 of the AL East's powers who went through down years at the same time for a very rare occasion. John Farrell knows there's a lot of offseason work to do. We visited with him this afternoon. Ichiro with a drive out to center field. Castillo is there for it to make the catch.
The designated hitter, number 2, Derek Jeter.
I think even those that are booing are doing so respectfully, if there is such a thing. There are only a few of them. A great ovation for Derek Jeter in his first plate appearance of the day.
And again, you know, Thursday will be something he'll never forget. Reality won't hit in until tomorrow, closer to the end of the game, that this is going to be it for a New York uniform.
And if you close your eyes, of course, it would sound like the bleacher creatures from the Bronx have invaded Fenway Park, because the Derek Jeter chant started early, and I would imagine we're going to be hearing it throughout the afternoon. Nothing and 2 to the Yankee captain. And a swing and a miss. My goodness, before the 0-2 pitch, have you ever heard a sold-out Fenway Park as quiet as it was at that very moment?
No, these fans, as much as they want to be the greatest home field advantage for their crowd, for their team, again, this is the ultimate respect. And 3 fastballs, and the third one just ends up beating him up in the zone. But each at bat, I'm assuming that's what you're going to get from the Boston faithful, as they appreciate a great career by one of their greatest rivals.
Here is the left-handed hitting catcher Brian McCann now with 2 out in the visitors' first. I'm telling you, there was like an eerie quiet there. Maybe it was because everybody was trying to get their camera up on their iPhone. But I think everybody was holding their breath on that 0-2 pitch. A ball and a strike quickly to the ex-Brave Brian McCann. Joe Kelly, for his part, making his 10th assignment as a Red Sox after the trade that brought him over from St. Louis in exchange for John Lackey. Kelly coming here with Alan Craig, who's in the lineup for Boston this afternoon playing first base, and Kelly has been very good. John Farrell's excited about Kelly given a full season here in Boston in 2015. A one-hopper to the aforementioned ex-Cardinal Alan Craig, and a 1-2-3 start to the afternoon for Joe Kelly. Back with John Smoltz, J.P. Morosi, Matt Vasgersian at Fenway Park in Boston. Derek Jeter's finale tour continues and culminates this weekend here on enemy territory, if you will. That's turned certainly respectfully friendly today. Let's take a look at the Red Sox starting lineup, brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you got to live Moss. Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, and Daniel Nava lead things off. Ex-A, Yoenis Cespedes DHs this afternoon in the cleanup spot. Alan Craig, Garen Cecchini, Rusme Castillo, Bryce Brentz, and Christian Vasquez make up a very young, in fact, 6 rookies by my count, Red Sox lineup this afternoon. And on the mound for the Yankees, as we mentioned, there are storylines this afternoon other than that of just Derek Jeter's. One of them is right here. Masahiro Tanaka making his second start since missing 65 days after being diagnosed with a small tear in his elbow.
Yeah, you can imagine the Yankees looking at this, and as they go through the offseason, trying to determine what the length of opportunity to see this guy pitch that they've invested a lot of money.
Tanaka's first pitch of the afternoon's in for a strike.
And as the game goes on, I'm going to explain some of the things and why the decisions were led to be sit him out, rehab, get him back on the mound. Now his second start, he did great in his first start. It was as if he didn't even leave with 70 pitches. And we'll talk about at length just the Tommy John speculation and the ligament and all the things that go into throwing a baseball that might, most experts, so-called experts, would say, oh, just go ahead and give him the Tommy John. He's going to need it anyways. Not so fast.
A ball and a strike. The count to Mookie Betts to 2-1 now. Well, you mentioned Tanaka's last start. It was a good one. There are the numbers. Beat the Blue Jays after missing 65 days of the season. Went into the 6th inning. Did not walk a batter. Struck out 4. 2 balls and a strike to the Boston leadoff hitter. Betts with a shot out to the gap in right center field. Mookie Betts can fly into second easily with a leadoff double.
If you're just tuning in and you're looking at this lineup and you're going, are you sure the Red Sox won the World Series championship last year? Yes, they have, and it's gone all so bad for them this year. But this guy, along with some other young players, are going to become a big part of the future. Mookie Betts and Bogaerts, who is at the plate now.
Xander Bogaerts is one of the few guys that was around here last year for more than just a day or so. Technically still in his rookie season. He and Daniel Nava on deck behind him make out what we see of the 2013 World Series team in this lineup today. In fact, the Yankees have almost as many World Series winning Red Sox from last year's lineup. Stephen Drew out there this afternoon. Here's the point. Last year, Game 6, the clincher for the world champion Red Sox, that was the lineup on your left, and today doesn't look like the same organization.
It really is unbelievable. For everything to go right last year, everything did go wrong this year, and it's the position they put themselves in to rebuild, and they've made some major trades along the way, but getting major players back, so it's not a absence of 3 or 4 years and they'll get back to the playoffs. They're hoping they can make this 1-year turnaround, as you see John Farrell, and last year dream come true manager, and now this year trying to evaluate some of the players for next year.
2 balls and no strikes. The count to the shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. Well, 6 rookies in the Red Sox lineup today. And this follows a stretch where John Farrell has fielded 3 straight starting lineups with 7 rookies in each of those games. And this all comes after not starting that many rookies in a game since 1987. A wave and a miss by Bogaerts.
Tanaka, by the way, as good as he's been, 13-4 this year. The first innings are the innings early on you can get him. After that, he settles down and gets into a groove and pretty much locks you down. 19 starts and he leads the team in wins with 13.
Two balls and 2 strikes. You know, when you lament the number of rookies used by the Red Sox this year, the Red Sox themselves would like to tell you that that's a positive to build on for the future, and you can see a lot of the talented pieces in place. They've had 8 rookies hit home runs this year. That's a team record. Guys like Castillo, Betts, Bogarts, perhaps the new building blocks for the next generation of dominant Boston teams. A full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. In the meantime, however, the Red Sox have had to endure one of the biggest drop-offs between a World Series vintage team and the next year's caliber club in baseball history. Only the '98 Marlins, after that '97 World Series, had a bigger drop as a defending World Series champ. One gone for Tanaka.
Yeah, the numbers get even more staggering when you think about not a winning month and so many things that, again, that went right last year. Runners in scoring position, offensively, they were in the top of almost every category, and this year they're at the bottom in a lot of categories. To speak of the imbalance really in their lineup, they need some left-handers to do a good job. They have not had a good record against right-handed starters, which speaks to the lack of left-handers as Nava steps in as one of the few left-handers. Of course, Big Papi not playing.
So here's Daniel Nava with a runner at second and 1 away. And not only are some of the veterans unavailable at this point of the season for the Red Sox in the final weekend. I mentioned David Ortiz, left wrist injury. Mike Napoli with a bad back and a finger problem that flared up in the second half. Some of their younger players, Brock Holt, who was an exciting find from their farm system. He'll miss the remainder of this weekend and this season with concussion symptoms. Certainly baseball playing it safe with that type of injury. 1-1 to Nava. Support here in Boston for a down year, however, has been terrific. And I know that the Red Sox ownership group went on TV last night during the NESN telecast to the series opener to thank fans for their support, for their trust in an otherwise forgettable season on the field. And today's crowd is indicative of that, John. Certainly a lot of folks here to see Derek Jeter, but when the Red Sox are at home, people come to watch him play.
Yeah, it's a proud place, historic place, one they're hoping to keep many, many, many more years. And it won't be long before they're right back competing in the playoffs, I'm sure.
Three balls and a strike to count to Daniel Nava. Yoenis Cespedes waits on deck. Leadoff double by Mookie Betts. Xander Bogaerts struck out. And so far a very deliberate pace from Masahiro Tanaka to start the afternoon.
Somewhat of a tight strike zone as well, as a lot of close pitches being taken and being called balls.
Back up the middle, a great play by the ex-Red Sox Stephen Drew, throws wide and everybody's safe.
Trying to figure out what Chase Headley was doing. I don't know if he got over there late, but his footwork was not quite what you expect. Of course, a great play here, saving a base hit and a run. As you watch the end of the play, trying to get off the bag, make the tag at the same time, and just didn't get done in a hit, as you see there.
So runners at the corners with one gone for Yoenis Cespedes. The combined numbers between Oakland and Boston: 22 home runs, 98 runs batted in, and a chance to put Boston on the board first this afternoon. Cespedes lines to left. 1-0 Red Sox.
I think Cespedes will be talked about for quite some time, depending on how this year plays out. As we all know, the trade that was made from Oakland and Boston Both clubs going in different directions, and Oakland now really going in different directions since they've lost this guy, Matt.
Well, certainly the absence of Cespedes in Oakland has been measurable. But folks that watch the A's play every day, while they certainly attribute a lot of that failure offensively to his absence, there are other things that have gone wrong in Oakland as well.
There has, and I would argue that the trade still is going to be successful if they make the playoffs, banking on the fact that John Lester and the strength of your rotation is going to be better having him there than not. And the fact that September you can throw about 6 different left-handers and 6 different right-handers at that platoon-type lineup, it kind of neutralizes their theory of how they've been successful all the way up until September.
Here's Alan Craig now. He lines to shortstop. Drew flips it to second to double off Nava and retire the side. The Red Sox do get on the board first on the Cespedes RBI single. The greatness of Fenway for the next 8 innings this afternoon. This telecast is sponsored by the new Dollar Cravings menu at Taco Bell. Live Moss. An RBI single by Yoenis Cespedes starts the scoring this afternoon. 1-0 Boston. Back with J.P. Morosi and John Smoltz. Matt Vasgersian here at Fenway Park. Middle of the order for the Yankees in the second. Chase Headley, Chris Young, and Stephen Drew. Headley trying to bunt his way aboard.
Why not? The shift is on. Easy way to get a hit. Most guys forget all they got to do is literally bunt it first and then take their time running to first.
And Chase Headley has beaten the shift on a couple of occasions as a Yankee after the trade that brought him over from San Diego.
I'm doing it again. Right away.
A ball and a strike. You know, we talk about the Red Sox retooling for 2015, John, and the post-Jeter Yankees next year are certainly going to look a lot different as well. Headley with a drive out to left center field. That one hit a bunch. Castillo looks up and plays it well off the monster. Rusney Castillo played that carom off the monster like he's been out there for 4 or 5 years.
Well, he said the heck with the shift. I'm going off the big old green monster over there and take my double. A lot of left-handers can feast off that wall. Part of the reason why John Farrell said they need to balance their lineup a little more with left-handers. That wall is a luxury.
Leadoff double puts a runner in scoring position now for Chris Young. Players like Headley, Young only signed through the 2014 season for New York. Chris Young sends a ball out to left. Brent's dealing with the tricky sun and makes the catch in front of the wall.
Yeah, to your point, Matt, there's about a lot of what ifs. The glass half empty or glass half full, and I think it gets full pretty quick if the health of some of their marquee guys like CC Sabathia comes back. Ivan Nova, of course, the rotation decimated by injuries. Even Michael Pineda had time spent on the DL. So the value in the stats of what the Yankees were and how long they stuck in the race is incredible to me. But I think the biggest contributing factor moving forward is that no longer Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, the lifers. You're going to have a collection of guys that have to do what these guys did and represented New York for so long. And whether it's McCann and Tex and the likes of Ellsbury now that is there. That's what they're going to be dealing with, as you see, first time they've missed the postseason in back-to-back seasons.
There really haven't been too many seasons where the Yankees and Red Sox have both missed in the same campaign. Stephen Drew with a drive out to center. This will hang up for Rusney Castillo. They're 2 away. In fact, it's the first time in the wild card era that both teams have missed the postseason in the same year.
It's been, to me, I'm going to go on record and say this has been the strangest baseball season that I can ever imagine, with everything that's gone on, with all the big leads and teams that didn't make it, the injuries, you name it. I mean, how many years will you see that many players switch uniforms within the division like has happened between the Red Sox and the Yankees? Whether it's Kelly Johnson or Stephen Drew, or the fact that Kelly Johnson has now played for, what, every team in the American League East?
I know it.
It's amazing. That stuff never used to happen, yet alone we're not used to the Yankees seeing and acquiring so many other players that didn't work with the previous team they were with, either being released or a trade that was for not a whole lot. Speaks to the amount of injuries they've had this year and what they've been dealing with.
Runner at second, 2 gone for Jose Pirela. Well, think about the leads that have gotten away. I'll get back to your earlier point. The Brewers had a 6.5 game lead in the Central on July 1st. Spent 150 days in that top spot, and they don't make the playoffs. It looks as though Oakland is going to get in as a wild card, but at one point we thought they were going to laugh all the way to an AL West title. Right. Instead, they needed every bit of help they could get just to get that wild card chair. Giants had a big division lead at one point, though they will go as a wild card. You know, and back to the AL East, even Toronto, John, at one point looked like they were the class of the division.
Yeah, there were a lot of teams running smooth and looking good for all that the start of the season had brought to them. Braves had a big lead, and they don't make the playoffs. And look at the Nationals end up going away, running away with it, looking arguably as one of the best teams to win it all. But the amount of injuries and the amount of things that have devastated ball clubs is amazing to me. The Texas Rangers, nobody is going to have probably worse than what they had happen to them with the amount of players that they used. I think close to a record, if not a record. And the Yankees are close second. It's been 2 years in a row now.
Indeed. That's why both teams feel like the quicks could be the fix could be quick. Pirela checks a swing, and on the appeal, no swing, says the first base umpire, the crew chief Larry Vanover. Well, New York has long-term deals still in place with veterans like Mark Teixeira, CC Sabathia, you mentioned, Carlos Beltran, Martin Prado. They're all here through 2016. And then there's that group of free agents that were brought on this year: Brian McCann, Jacoby Ellsbury, Masahiro Tanaka. They're in the first years of 5- and 7-year contracts, respectively. So you could certainly make the case that the foundation is still in place. Full count pitch to Pirela, foul back.
Well, I know Brian McCann didn't have the year he was hoping to have, and I think this may end up being the least productive year of his whole contract. I think he's going to get better and better. Some of those guys, I don't know. Carlos Beltran, of course, still has some life in the tank. His injuries and surgery and pending surgery in the offseason. Of course, Mark Teixeira and all the bumps and bruises, but he put up 20-some home runs in limited play. So, yes, if you get those productions back from those guys offensively, that's where the Yankees have been missing so much.
No, fastball just misses to Pirela. And runners at first and second now with 2 gone.
Tell you what, this is I know we haven't seen a lot of offense this year, but this is a hitting strike zone.
Number 17, Brendan Ryan.
Here's Brendan Ryan now. Ryan getting the start at third base this afternoon with Chase Headley playing first. That's another thing that I don't know that the Yankees could have ever envisioned guys like Chase Headley or Brian McCann playing as much first base as they ended up playing this year as Ryan takes a strike. All back to the health of Mark Teixeira, one of the best in baseball when he's healthy, potent switch hitter, 5-time Gold Glover. He hasn't been healthy all year, and that's why they had to go to plans B and C as often as they did. Oh, and 2 the count to Brendan Ryan.
Yeah, some of the team leader stuff that's gone on for the Yankees. You're seeing numbers you never see. Leading the team, 271 average, only 75 RBIs. Those are unheard of numbers when you prototypically think of Yankees in Yankee Stadium. 23 home runs, only 13 wins out of the staff. That's impossible unless you have the amount of injuries that they had and dealt with this year.
Yeah, when we come back in the next half inning, J.P. Morosi has some really compelling numbers that break down how difficult a pitching season it was in New York. Health being at the crux of that difficulty, of course. Headley and Pirela aboard with 2 gone. 1-0 Boston early on this afternoon. I don't know what's more surprising to me, though, the Yankees and Red Sox not making the postseason in the same season, or Kansas City and Pittsburgh making the postseason in the same season. Well, by the way, that had never happened before this year.
Yeah, pretty impressive for both clubs, especially Kansas City breaking a big drought that now Toronto has to wear that big drought of postseason lack of existence. I think for Pittsburgh and their rally and making sure that last year wasn't a fluke. Big for that city, and certainly Kansas City. You could see the excitement of all those years pinned up of no postseason baseball. They'll at least have one game, possibly still could win the division. Both those clubs still could.
Little tapper to first base for Alan Craig. 2 are left stranded in the second. A couple of Yankee veterans enjoying a light moment at Fenway. 1-0 Boston. Telecast is sponsored by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball. Sold out crowd at the Fens as we head to the home half of the second. Masahiro Tanaka back to work. We were talking in the last half inning, John, about some of the low totals posted by Yankee hitters this year, and it certainly is eye-catching for an organization known for big lofty offensive totals, especially at quote-unquote new Yankee Stadium. The low pitching totals are just as eye-catching, and it's good to have with us as always JP Morosi, senior columnist at FoxSports.com. And I know, JP, you did some looking at those numbers. You got to go back a ways to find these kind of totals in Yankee history.
Yeah, Matt, we always talk about the importance of getting good length from your starting rotation, the 200-inning type pitchers. The Yankees this year, Matt, will not have a single 200-inning pitcher on their staff for the first time since Javier Vasquez in 2004.
It's not just an innings of work figure either. You're talking about starts made. Strikeout totals are big because of Tanaka in large part. 139 strikeouts in his 19 starts. But those numbers are down across the board for the Yankees.
They really are, Matt. And even if you look down to the 140-inning mark, the Yankees have only one starting pitcher above that right now. That's Hiroki Kuroda. Now, Tanaka could surpass that today, but still, if you have only one guy over 140 innings, that's a really, really tough workload for your bullpen.
Yeah, when was the last time that was the case for the Yankees?
That was 1991. Scott Sanderson was the only one at that point in time.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been basically a quarter century.
And those were some dry years. We have a tendency as casual fans, some of us, to think of every era of Yankee baseball being rich with success. Most of them have been. But that period in the early 90s is one of the few exceptions. It's a full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Garen Cecchini. And a swing and a miss. Cecchini playing in his 10th big league game. Staring back out at Masahiro Tanaka, saying we don't see that in Pawtucket very often.
Yeah, 3-2 split finger fastball, his signature pitch. He's got gears on that split finger. What I mean by it is you can throw it when he's completely healthy, harder. The depth of it changes as the count that he's trying to make the hitter recognize a fastball is coming, and then it disappears. I'm still enamored with all these players for the Red Sox. Watching last year the team win the World Championship, and I can only imagine them thinking, golly, it's going to take us a while to get up there. These guys are having a great year, and they're all up here.
Here they are.
And they won. Pawtucket did win was it the Governor's Cup? What is it called?
The Governor's Cup, yeah.
So they had a farm system filled with the guys that you're currently seeing now that are auditioning maybe for some spots. So these games are very important to them.
2 balls and no strikes to the rookie center fielder Rusney Castillo. Castillo is homered in back-to-back games, playing in just his 9th big league assignment this afternoon.
The Red Sox also have a patent on the under 6 foot strong, pretty good guys that the model they throw out here.
There's ball 4 to Castillo. There is a pennant implication game happening in Cincinnati this afternoon. Ryan Field at the Fox Sports Studios has a game break. All right, Ryan, thanks. And of course, the Pirates still hopeful that they'll be able to catch St. Louis atop the NL Central. Starting play today, a game back, of course, with 2 days left on the schedule.
Yeah, if you're Washington, you're going, come on, boys, we need a playoff. The more the merrier, because that playoff would send another team into a playoff that they would eventually play, which is the wild card winner. So, yeah, you're hoping that they have to extend and go full bore to the end of the season. What Pittsburgh's winning has done is not given Mike Matheny any luxury of resting anybody. He has to play full tilt as well because winning the division is that important.
Castillo runs. Bryce Brents takes the pitch. Throw down to second base is not in time. Make Rusney Castillo 3 for 3 in career stolen base attempts.
for a guy who did not play all of last year baseball. They're banking on a lot of this to be part of his game. Speed with some easy power, not a big guy, and play a little bit of outfield. Not so sure what Jose was thinking when he acted as if he may have gotten that tag down and got him out. Pretty safe.
Yeah, some, late September theatrics, a little additional body language, playing in front of a big packed house. Jose Perella trying to sell the fact that he had the glove there in time. So it turns into an RBI opportunity now for Bryce Brentz. Brentz playing in his 8th career game as a big leaguer. On the ground to third for Brendan Ryan, and 2 away.
Brentz had the pinch hit double, which as an extra base hit goes in your first at bat. Only Daniel Nava, which hit a grand slam. Can't think of a better way to start your career, or maybe a worse way of expectation, but to hit a grand slam in your first major league at bat. Wow.
Here's Christian Vasquez now, the rookie catcher, with 2 out and a runner at second. With youth being served at so many places for the Red Sox next year, the one glut they have, and it's potentially problematic. I mean, you can never have too many of anything in baseball, but they have a whole lot of outfield choices for next year. The guy on deck, Mookie Betts, is playing second base today only because Dustin Pedroia has been shut down the rest of the year. They project Betts as a center fielder.
Yeah.
There's still Jackie Bradley Jr., who was supposed to get the opportunity to play there as the young guy. He's still in the mix. A couple of the kids that are up here in September: Bryce Brentz, Rusney Castillo, Shane Victorino's under contract. He'll be healthy next year.
Well, everybody knew that they were going to miss Ellsbury, but I don't think they knew how bad they were going to miss him. Financially, probably didn't make sense for the Red Sox. They probably thought that they could use an accumulation of guys to replace one guy, and it did not work. Of course, Jackie Bradley Jr. being the guy struggled mightily in his confidence, trying to reinvent himself to figure out, because he'd never really gone through this at any point until the big leagues. Which, by the way, I asked John Farrell and I've asked other managers, do you think there's a big part of this game that we have today, with everything that is going good as far as talent and potential, that young players are being promoted too quickly, that they're not seasoned enough? And I think that argument goes with pitchers as well. And the time frame that these guys spend in the minor leagues is not quite long enough to give them a basis to be successful and struggle at the big league level.
Into right center, a base hit. Castillo will score easily on the RBI single by Christian Vasquez. So a team that started the weekend last in the American League in batting average with runners in scoring position has cashed in on a couple of opportunities early today.
Vasquez goes down and hits a pitch down, and he has been on fire lately. He has definitely enjoyed this homestand coming into it. He was 6 for 8, now make that 7 for 9. And his current streak of 4 games now 8 for 12. Last impressions are so good for baseball players. You could struggle for 2 weeks straight, and in your last 3 games get on fire and say, whoa, wait, maybe that could be the guy we're looking at, or that could be the guy that we see more of next year. So finishing strong is important.
Here's Mookie Betts once again, who's trying to do the same thing. He has doubled and scored today. Playing in his 51st game. Has probably gotten more opportunity at the major league level this year than even he could have anticipated.
We'll obviously see Derek Jeter in the next inning, and to think about the meaningless games that he's played in, I don't know of anybody in the history of baseball that could have played less meaningless games. For myself personally, after going through 14 years of an incredible run, to have that 15th year then go, ugh, this game feels weird. We're not playing for anything. I can only imagine the last 2 years really for Derek Jeter, because last year, of course, he was hurt.
I mean, that was a ridiculous graphic we just saw on the screen. Ridiculous and no less true. That this is just the third game in his career that he's ever played in which the Yankees were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. 3 games in 20 years.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I don't think people can grasp what that really means. It's too bad we couldn't come up with a quick stat of what the average is for every baseball player who's played the game currently. I bet you it's pretty high.
There's ball 4 to Betts. Runners at first and second now with 2 away and a run in.
Now Chipper was pretty close. He came in the middle of that run when he came with the Braves, and all he knew was winning baseball and playoffs. But it's an odd feeling. I don't care. I mean, even Derek probably at this point, even knowing he's ending his career, it's an odd feeling when you're so used to this time of the year. Your body gets going, the juices get flowing. Even if you're tired, you know that the run you're about to go on is enough energy and adrenaline to get you through. And now in 2 days, everybody else in this ballpark and the Yankees will be packing up for their off season. Don't have that happen too often.
Here's Xander Bogaerts now. So, you know, getting back to that with Jeter over 20 years, by games, it's 2,745 career regular season games that he's played in. This is the third in which he's played in a game that his team's been mathematically eliminated. On the ground at third and past Ryan on into left field. Vasquez will stop at third, and they're loaded with 2 away.
Ball just gets underneath the glove of Brendan Ryan, and they're going to come out and take a look and talk a little bit with Tanaka and make sure they don't want to push anything as they're trying to see where he is physically.
Yeah, that gives us an opportunity to further talk about what you led to earlier today. Larry Rothschild, the Yankee pitching coach, out for a chat, and we asked Joe Girardi about it this afternoon. We wanted, in his words, why the decision to bring Tanaka back to make 2 starts, one of which happens when the team's mathematically eliminated. And, you know, Joe's response was very honest. He said, look, he's okay. What did people expect us to do? As you look at what Tanaka's accomplished in his rookie go-around, he has a small tear. A lot of pitchers pitch years with small tears. It's not big enough for the Yankees to prescribe surgery. He rehabbed it. He strengthened it. He certainly wanted to pitch. At some point, the Yankees have to see if he's okay to keep going with the tear, and that time is now, according to Joe Girardi.
Yeah, the doomsayers or the lack of experts would say, man, eventually it's going to go, so let's just get it done now so we can enjoy the rest of his career, get the surgery at his age, da-da-da-da. It's just not always the quick fix. I don't believe you should always just quickly have surgery, because those things can scar over and you can pitch with them and effectively with some time. Having had that injury myself personally, I don't know specifically how many years, but it was 4 or 5 years where my ligament was compromised and I pitched because we're in the midst of a playoff run in that stretch. So at 34 years old, I had my Tommy John. I would think if he was younger, maybe they treat it a little bit differently. Maybe they look at it more proactively, but because of the investment, they have to make sure that this 2 starts and a normal offseason will put him in position to be effective next year with the rest that he'll get.
So you pitched for how many years after being diagnosed with the same or similar kind of, quote, small tear?
I would say multiple years for sure. I'd had, several scopes. My last scope was an indicator that my next surgery was going to be Tommy John. They get that sneak preview. The reason you get spurs is your body's trying to protect your ligament. So eventually I learned how to change my arm angle. I pitched sidearm. I threw knuckleballs. And then in 2000, I ended up having the full tear.
Ball and a strike to count to Daniel Nava. Did you ever think that when you began your career in baseball, you would be as learned as you are about the physioanatomy of the arm and shoulder?
No chance. I mean,
sometimes I listen to you. I think you're a doctor, honestly.
I've been through a share of every pitcher who pitches 21 years or at least that long. You're going to go through your share of pitching hurt. And there's a difference between with something sore versus something you can't pitch through. And you learn a lot by listening to the doctors and their advice and what you can and can't do out on the mound.
2 balls and a strike. The count to Daniel Nava. Bases loaded, a run in, 2 away in the home second. To 2-2 now.
Of course, Tanaka, known for pitching once a week in Japan. There's some talk with New York that maybe they might embrace next year having a 6-man rotation. I don't know how viable that is and whether that actually plays out. But the future, at least, is a little bit brighter today, having seen him pitch 2 games, than the not knowing factor going into the offseason without him actually getting and working his way back in shape. So at least that process has paid some dividends to this point.
Taking some time with Brian McCann to get on the same page, and finally Nava stands out. Yankee bullpen is hot. Right-hander Preston Claiborne is up early here in the second.
I must say, before I forget, I commend the Minnesota Twins on their gesture and what they did with former Yankee Phil Hughes. The story goes, it was 9th inning, rain delay with two outs in the 9th. He gets 1/3 of an inning more. He gets another bonus of $500,000 that was in his contract. They offered him the opportunity to pitch out of the bullpen. He declined, which is another question. But I think the fact that he had and currently owns a record of strikeout to walk ratio in the history of the game. But a great gesture. Didn't have to do it. I think it was a classy move and a guy that has had a really good year for them.
I disagree.
Well, on which part?
Respectfully disagree. They should have just given him the money instead of giving him the opportunity to pitch.
True,
another third.
and I
they
think
should
they
have just
still
written
will.
the check.
I still think they will.
Because if he says, yeah, I'll take that opportunity, I'll go out there and work the last third somewhere in garbage time, then he looks like a guy who's only working for money.
True,
you know what I mean?
True, but Mother Nature ruined it. It wasn't like they weren't going to give him the opportunity. The easiest thing to do would have been take him out in the 9th, bring your closer in if you're concerned about not getting him paid.
Right.
All I'm saying is the circumstances of weather interrupted the season. The season's over. There's nothing they could do about it. At least they said, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity if you want to get that third of an inning. I hear you totally, and I still think and maintain that maybe they'll reward him somehow.
I think they will, too.
Yeah.
I think they will. They'll do the right thing. 2 balls and 2 strikes is the count to Daniel Nava. On the ground and a fair ball as it gets past Headley. 1 run scores. The throw to the plate is not in time to cut down Betts. A 2-run bouncer up the first base line. And the Yankees have taken a 4-0 lead.
You talked about the amount of people that have played first base for the Yankees this year. You're seeing the evidence of it. The fact that we're so used to seeing Mark Teixeira make this play in his sleep. You're asking guys to play other positions, awkward angles, and of course, not being able to make the play there was the result of a couple runs.
So a 4-0 lead for Boston with runners at the corners and 2 away. And now a chance for Yoenis Cespedes, who drove in the first run of the afternoon.
So what do we got? We got a single and 2 RBIs. Is that what that...
No scoring decision made official yet. And now it is. A 2-run single is credited to Daniel Nava. So here's Cespedes. There was 1 error charged on the play. You still give 2 RBIs to Nava, but the error is what moves the runner to third. So Bogart's advancing the extra base on the E3. 0-1 to the two-time home run derby champ Yoenis Cespedes. Sharply hit through the hole on into left center. 5-0 Boston. And I think that's going to be the end of the line for Masahiro Tanaka this afternoon.
Yeah, just not as crisp, and you can understand. Second start, trying to get that.
An early pitching change in Boston. We'll be right back. Driven in a couple of runs today. His first 100 RBI campaign in his career. The big reason why the Red Sox have a 5-0 lead early on. Preston Claiborne is the new Yankee pitcher, and he'll inherit the first and third with 2 away. First offering to Alan Craig, a little flare out to center field. It gets away from Yuri Perez. Both runners score. 7-0 Boston. Oh my.
Well, he was charging pretty hard, and he never really slowed down as the ball he anticipated probably going to take a little dive towards his glove. You watch this right here, and that ball just keeps carrying, and he's got to raise his glove instead of catching it chest high. So a little bit too much speed and a little bit too much carry on the baseball. And a rough inning for the New York Yankees.
An error charged to the rookie Yuri Perez. So now Garen Cecchini, who started the inning with a strikeout, the 10th Boston batter to hit in the second.
Well, much like the Red Sox, we talked about what are they trying to find for the future. I believe the Yankees have found some pitchers for the future, some guys who have filled in admirably and could have a major role next year with the club. Green did a nice job. Of course, everybody vying for spots, but Betances has really been everyone talked about him as a potential closer down the road.
Yeah,
but he has been a weapon for the New York Yankees. There's the numbers for Preston Claiborne. So,
you know, as all this discussion today circles back to Derek Jeter, The misplay by Yuri Perez reminds us that Joe Girardi with Derek this weekend, as he did with Mariano Rivera last year, offered Derek a chance to do whatever he wanted in this final series of the year. Want to manage? Want to play center field? You want to catch? And Derek said, I'll DH.
Yeah.
And I guess all this was born from Mariano Rivera's desire for many years to play center field in a major league game, which didn't end up happening at the end of the season last year.
That was mine, and I had the promise from Bobby Cox that he would let me play center field. My injury ruined that. Of course, I didn't finish with the Braves, but I was looking forward to playing center field just one inning. I didn't care if it was one at bat. For Derek Jeter, obviously much different position. Played short his whole career, and at this point he's just going to finish up his fantastic career as a DH.
And you know, I mean, people say a lot, some of Derek's detractors or people that don't really understand why he's being celebrated so appropriately. When you hear people say he did everything the right way, here's a small sampling of that. He could have gone out there and been one of those guys to play all 9 innings in a game. He could have been one of those guys to play an inning in center field. He could have caught an inning, and in his mind he knows he would have been criticized for that because that wouldn't be respectful to the game. And even though he had the opportunity to do whatever he wanted today, he chose to DH. Did the right thing.
He did.
Cicchini with a drive into the opposite field. Chris Young will play this one off the monster. Another run scores. A 2-out RBI double for Garen Cicchini. 8-0 Boston.
Cicchini got a break, and that break was on the pitch before. Probably strike 3. He made the most of that break. Picks on the next pitch and goes off of the green monster. The infamous sound of clank off the historic scoreboard / wall.
So now Rusney Castillo, who walked, stole the base, and scored the first run in this 7-run second.
You and I's last game was at another historic place in Wrigley Field. They're going to do some upgrades there and trying to keep these two stadiums as relevant as possible. I forget how long they've actually kept or will keep Fenway with some of the changes they've made, but they're going to make some major changes to Wrigley Field.
Yeah, most notably a big scoreboard in left. But the changes that were made here within this ownership group's tenure at Fenway have been so seamless. You almost think that Budweiser porch in right field was part of the original structure. You think that the monster seats have been there for 100 years. That's how perfect the revisions were here at Fenway within the last decade.
Well, the fans certainly loving the score, and it's been a long time since they cheered Derek Jeter. What, about 45 minutes ago or something like that, or longer? He's up third the next inning.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we're going to get there. 9-0 Boston. So Rusney Castillo's already made an impact today. A walk, a stolen base, a single, and an RBI. And the comparisons are flying over who Rusney Castillo reminds Red Sox fans of. Who does he remind you of, JP?
Well, Matt, I spoke with Brian Butterfield, the Red Sox third base coach, about Rusney Castillo earlier today, and the name we both agreed upon is Ron Gant. So, John, I guess I have to ask you, is that Ron Gant comparison fair based on your old teammate?
Yeah, Ron Gant, of course, playing second base, but that was not going to be his position. He learned to play center field and outfield, and certainly a good comparison to your point.
Bryce Brentz gets into the act. Runners at first and third.
Matt, you're on your own with the scorecard. I can't do it anymore.
I'm starting to struggle myself. Christian Vasquez is going to be the 13th Red Sox batter to come to the plate in this second inning.
Yeah, my short broadcasting career, I've never had that happen, so I don't know what to do other than I'll just piggyback off of your professionalism.
Oh boy,
and your scorecard.
We're both in trouble. Here comes Larry Rothschild to chat with Claiborne.
I mean, I just stopped.
Well, you know what your big problem is? You're using this thing that they give you in the press box.
Well,
customized old school radio guy scorecard. It's not going to look that good in a half an hour, folks. I tell you. You're all right. No, you're good.
No, because I stopped. I gotta go back into the third inning, and then like you did, right there.
Yeah, cheat into the third inning.
I could keep it going, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna.
Well, it's been a 30-minute bottom of the second so far. 3 straight 2-out hits after the error in center field by Yuri Perez that should have ended the inning. And Preston Claiborne just wants to give himself a little blow by throwing into first base.
Yeah, another play that could have ended the inning really was Chase Headley's ball down the first base line that was not played, and it was a tougher play, but one that typically a more commonly used first baseman might be familiar with. Of course, Chase playing third base most of the time. Nonetheless, a lot of unearned runs are coming in.
8 runs on 7 hits and 2 errors so far. Oh, and 1 the count to Christian Vasquez. You know, the line around these last few days with the Red Sox and Yankees lineup cards has been that's the kind of lineup card that we get rejected in a spring training game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that means for the unindoctrinated is that you have to have a certain number of, quote, regular players in a spring training game by letter of the law. Now, that same rule does not apply in September call-up baseball during the regular season.
No, neither team that they were playing, being the Red Sox, were in contention for anything, and that rule goes right out the window for the most part when you can start playing your call-ups and therefore play untraditionally guys that you wouldn't play if a team, let's say the Orioles, were playing. You would have to play it more straight to the vest.
So we've talked about how the Red Sox today have been a lot better with runners in scoring position than they have all year. Been a lot better with 2 outs than they have all year. In fact, they're 6 for 7 with 2 outs today. Only the Astros had a lower 2-out batting average than the Red Sox did this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers to support why the drop-off, and certainly a World Series champions to last place. The number one thing that surprised me in all the statistics, of course, 2013, first, second, first, third, first, second in all major categories. But the one that they were first in, 338 batting average, went ahead in the count. This year, dead last. 268.
That's a hard one to figure out.
It's almost impossible to figure out. And that's the one thing that I'm talking to John Farrell, when they needed something to happen last year, they did it. When they took pitches, they were productive at bats. They had crooked numbers like that in the innings on the scoreboard. But the one thing they haven't been able to do in a lot of different ways, that to me is the most alarming. When you have the favorable count as a hitter and a team to be dead last or 30th in that batting average of 268, it speaks volume of why your offensive production is not going to be where it needs to be.
Mookie Betts has doubled, walked, and scored 2 of Boston's 9 runs today.
So
speaking of the 9 runs, 8 of them coming this inning. The last time the Yankees allowed an 8-run inning, it's been a few years, 2011 against Toronto. Don't see this very often on either side of the scorecard. I just interrupted you. You're getting ready to ask.
I was going to ask you a professional question here. Let's see right after this pitch. I'll have to ask you next inning.
An 8-run inning comes to a close. Somebody tell Derek that the inning's over. He bats third when we go to the top half of the third. Craig Breslow of the Red Sox on the right there, and CC Sabathia of the Yankees have been nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award presented by Chevrolet. Go to ChevyBaseball.com and vote now for the player you think deserves this prestigious award, and you'll be entered for a chance to go to the 2014 World Series. Back with John Smoltz and J.P. Morosi, Matt Vasgersian in Boston. It has been all Red Sox early, certainly. 9-0 Boston, as that score indicates. Derek Jeter bats third as we play the top half of the third inning this afternoon. Yuri Perez, Ichiro Suzuki, and then number 2.
Usually when you sit that long as a starter, you watch to see how they come out, but 8 runs will make you feel pretty good.
Cicchini's able to throw out Perez one away.
So my question to you was, as I'm trying to, you gather all this information to get through the whole game and all that, I'm running out of stuff because I was prepared to get most of that stuff I got in through 8 innings. Oh. What happens? What do you do?
Wow.
Because we're only in the...
You blew it all out of the practice tee, huh? Well, I'm sure there's some Simpsons promos we can do coming up later on.
Okay.
Now we've got plenty of Derek Jeter discussion.
Absolutely.
We're joined by Joe Girardi. Hope to be joined by David Ortiz a little bit later on today as Ichiro takes a strike.
A lot of cameras in the next 2 days taking pictures of that man.
He has settled in to that number 6 spot on the all-time hit list, just as folks predicted he would at the beginning of the season. 3,463 hits. There was a chance he could have gotten to Tris Speaker with a big-time magical year. Stan Musial was kind of out of reach as Ichiro chops it to Cicchini. Throws a little wide, but Craig's able to stay anchored somehow to complete the out at first. And with 2 away, here is Jeter for the second time this afternoon.
The designated hitter, number 2, Derek Jeter.
He's up there swinging the bat today, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he had an hour and 10 minutes before he saw that pitch right there. Well, he said, why not?
Struck out in his first try today. There's that same kind of calm here at Fenway Park for his second plate appearance that there was for his first. Infield chop. Cicchini gets to it and decides to eat it. Jeter's aboard on the infield single.
Well, at 40, he still can get down the line. I'm sure if he'd have got out of the ball out of the glove right away, he would have had a chance. But nonetheless, a chopper off the plate for a hit.
How many of us wish we could have run that well when we were 40? 164 hits in this ballpark now. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, and Lou Gehrig, the only Yankees ahead of him on the Yankee hit list here at Fens.
Somebody asked him, I don't know who it was, if he wanted that ball. But he declined, I guess.
Oh, somebody wants it, I guarantee you. There's somebody putting a sticker on it, along with every patch of ground that he's walked on this afternoon, and all 7 or 8 sets of batting gloves he'll go through. It's been a boon to the collectibles industry the last few weeks. Jeter aboard for Brian McCann, who sends a comebacker right to Kelly. Nothing comes of Jeter's 2-out single. The home half of the third with the Red Sox on top big 9-zip. Austin Romine takes over behind the plate for Brian McCann. It'll be the first of many changes to come this afternoon, and the new pitcher is right-hander Brian Mitchell. Mitchell was recalled from AAA Scranton as a September call-up on the 2nd of September. This is his 4th stint with the big league club this year. Made his big league debut in August and has been up and down since.
I'm sure these won't be the last changes that we get a chance to look at.
Xander Bogaerts leads things off for Boston. Nava and Cespedes follow. If you're just tuning us in, the Red Sox pounded out 8 runs in the second with some help. 2 Yankee errors are part of the process, but 8 runs on 7 hits for Boston. On 1 sharp pop for Stephen Drew. Well, we had a chance to visit with Joe Girardi between innings, and as he is a guy that wants to win, John Smoltz asked him how difficult it's been watching these couple of years and some greats leave the Yankee organization, and that from you, a guy who cries at a few movies.
You know, I've shed a tear in these 2 movies, obviously, with because I had a chance to play with these guys and win with these guys as a player and a manager, and they've meant so much to the organization. And they're just have been great ambassadors for the game. So that's the most difficult thing about them leaving. They're not only great players, but they're really great people, and I'm going to miss them.
Joe, thanks for sharing this with us. Have a great offseason.
Thanks, guys.
One of the things I can't imagine as a guy who, as you mentioned, playing with these guys, but bidding them on their way with all that they've met and meant to the organization. I noticed that even with Joe Girardi last year, the emotions of these last 2 seasons, not being in the playoffs, but also at the same time saying goodbye to 2 greats, has got to be a tough deal for the New York Yankee organization.
And it's just so unique to have an iconic player for an iconic franchise playing for a manager that was his teammate. There are other combinations like that in baseball this year. Mike Matheny manages the Cardinals. He was a teammate of Yadi Molina's. Mike Redmond of the Marlins played with both Brad Penny and Garrett Jones, who he manages here at the end of the year. And Tim Bogart, the interim manager in Texas, was at one point in his career teammate of Adrian Beltre. So that combination not as rare as it is in the Yankees franchise. And that one comes in and gets a little piece of Daniel Nava.
Try to throw a hard little cutter right there, slash slider, and it gets him on the leg. You're seeing the shadow at home plate that's going to grow as time goes on. Typically this would be about the 5th or 6th inning, but because the length of that second inning has stretched out that shadow, and it's going to make it a little more difficult for hitters to pick up the baseball here in a little bit. Man, I used to love these kind of midday times where the shadow and time change was getting close to happening.
That's why you're going to hear some players talk about it in the postseason.
Yep.
In the division series. Here's Cespedes now with the runner on. And I would agree with that complaint. You know, you play a 162 game season, and you do that either in full sunshine or mostly sunshine, right, with 1 p.m. starts, or you do it under the lights. But because the postseason schedule has to accommodate many different moving parts, invariably there is one series that includes some weird midday start times, and you get a lot of this, a lot of strange shadows, the likes of which you don't see a lot of.
Yeah, and if you're hitters, you're really hoping for cloudy days, to be honest with you, because when you have these scenarios play out, it is a huge advantage to the pitcher. I'm trying to remember the time of the game when Mike Mussina did what he did with the Orioles. Like, was that against Cleveland? Had a high strikeout total, and the shadows were perfect, and Mike Mussina was a great pitcher anyways.
We could look it up right now on the interweb. Double play puts an end to the third. Still 9-0 Sox. broadcast is sponsored by T-Mobile and by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's to Budweiser. Here's to baseball. Here at Fenway Park, the Red Sox with a 9-0 lead, top half of the fourth inning, as the Yankees send up the 4-5-6, part of their order against Boston right-hander Joe Kelly. And we are so pleased to have David Ortiz with us from the Red Sox dugout. And David, before we get into talking about Derek Jeter and some of these end-of-the-season sentiments, tell us how you're feeling. I know that left wrist has had you unavailable here down the stretch.
It's getting better. It's getting better. I've been getting treatment by the trainers, and yeah, I'm feeling a lot better.
David, as we look at this, the famous shift that is being employed in baseball, you ready to break out some bunts next year?
Hey, I've been trying, and the thing is that everything happened too fast. The other day I was trying to bunt against my boy Cece at the beginning of the season, and by the time I put my bat down, the ball was already going back at him. So I was like, okay, I better start it up a little earlier.
So much between your Red Sox and these Yankees over the years, David. And as everybody kind of tips their cap to Derek Jeter here this weekend in Boston, some of your thoughts on the captain's departure?
Unbelievable career. One of the players that I'm not going to lie to you. When you go and play against the Yankees, it's not seeing number 2 over there playing shortstop. It's going to be something that as a player you're going to miss it. It's got a remarkable career. I have a lot of respect for DJ, and you know, just looking at his career, the way everything happened, it's something that as a player you put it on perspective. Something that we all learn from him a lot of good things. This is a guy that his career has been unbelievable, and there's not one player in baseball that doesn't tip his hat when it comes down to him.
David, you yourself have had so many huge moments. Last year was incredible. You guys win it all. Credit to you and sticking in what has been a tough year when you've produced again. How many years personally do you have left? You just keep on going.
Not many. Everything is starting to hurt, you know, and it's like I bumped into Derek the other day in the parking lot after the last series we played. During the last series we played, and I was like, "Hey DJ, man, you look good, man. You can play a couple of more years." And he told me, "I'm my Poppy, but you know, there's a lot of things coming with the game, and you know, your body is you mentally, you know, still be the same, but your body doesn't respond." And that is when the time comes for us to be like, you know, time to go. And in his case, it's one of those situations where fans, players, the game gonna miss a guy like him. It's a guy that, like I say, you know, everything being so positive and everything being so good, the years that he's been playing, and this is a guy that teach every single player at this level how to be responsible, how to respect the game, and how to do the right thing.
You know, it's interesting hearing you say all that about somebody else, David, because so much of that has been said about you in your career. And you're in a role now with the Red Sox, and looking around at some of the young kids, I know that you don't have a lot of time to get to know everybody personally, but you have to be excited or at least intrigued by some of the talented youngsters that have been here in September. Definitely.
I was a guy that when I was at the beginning of my career, I have a lot of questions, and now we have want to have a veteran that answers the questions for me. So now I'm looking at the picture, and I'm like, I'm that guy, the one that got to answer questions. So it's fun, man. You know, like when you see all this young kid with all the talent coming through and do their search and trying to figure out how to play the game better. It's fun. It's something that I'm always up to. Let them know what I know. And the one thing that I always tell them is this game, you never stop learning. Every day you see new things. Every day you got to put things in place so you can survive through it, so you can be consistent. And when I talk to you about Derek, it's a guy that he don't say much, but you see his body language. You see how he handle the business. And you don't have to have an hour conversation with him just so you can learn things the right way.
David, I'm intrigued with the one big Poppy. What do you think about little Poppy in Minnesota, the heir apparent, so to speak?
Let me tell you. That guy is going to be special. I'm telling you right now. We stay in touch. He's one of my boys. In the spring training, we always get to hang out a lot. And that's another guy that have a lot of questions. He has questions. He want to learn. He wanna get it done. He want to help those Minnesota Twins to win ball games. And those are the part of those are the things that we need to put attention to get the game better. Those guys that are hungry. Those guys that want to get to know how to get better. Because this game asks you for much every day. And you got to bring it to the table every day. You got to do something so you can bring your game, take your game to another level. And that's what I've been seeing the past couple of years, all this young talent wanting to learn how to play the game, wanting to know how to stay consistent on a daily basis. And it made me excited.
Yeah, Kenny's Vargas, the player in Minnesota. It's one thing, David, when you hear kids try to pattern their game towards you and younger kids. It's another thing when it's a guy in the big leagues who's patterned his game towards yours.
I tell you what, I did that so many times. Like I remember, a couple of years into the league, I want to know why Mo Vaughn, Giambi, Paul O'Neill, all those guys, I want to know why they were so good hitting with men in the scoring position. And I was asking questions, and all of them give me an answer. Different answer, but at the end of the day, it mean the same. You know what I'm saying? So I think the game, like I say, you never start learning things about the game. I remember I played with Paul Molitor on his late days when he was about to retire, and the play happened. We were playing the Chicago White Sox, and the play happens on the field. And I asked him, a guy that had 20 years in the league, I went like, have you ever seen that before? He went like, nope. And I'm like, well, if you haven't seen it, guess what I got? You know what I'm saying? Like everything, every day, on the field, off the field, things happen, new things that you want to learn, that you want to see, you want to know why it happens. And that's why you got to keep your head on the game the longest you play it.
What's the offseason look like for you, David? You get that wrist healthy, and then what?
Yeah, my wrist's going to be fine. It's just a little bit of inflammation. It's going away slowly. The doctor told me the other day that I need 1 or 2 weeks without swinging, so the inflammation goes away. But it's not anything risky or anything that need surgery, thanks God, or anything like that. This offseason, I need to catch up a break for a couple of weeks with the family and then go back at it. You know, the longest I play baseball, I like to be on top of it, especially as you get older, because, like I said before, your body start giving up on you, and next thing you know, you got to start it all over.
Hey, well, listen, David, we always appreciate the conversation. Enjoy a great offseason, my friend.
Hey, thanks, guys.
The $1 million smile that the league's going to miss after tomorrow. All Boston this afternoon. A 1-for-2 afternoon for Derek Jeter so far in his next to last day as an active big league player. Still to be determined what role, if any, Jeter will have tomorrow in the season finale. Boston on the back of a 8-run second with a big early lead this afternoon, chasing Masahiro Tanaka from the game after a short one, didn't complete 2. Joe Girardi telling us between innings, by the way, that Tanaka is okay. He was not removed due to any health concerns, but with a high pitch count, making just his second start since coming back after 65 days of inactivity, the Yankees deciding not to push it any farther.
Yeah, you worry about that big long inning where you throw over 30 pitches and it has more of a taxing effect even on a healthy guy, yet alone a guy trying to get healthy. So wise decision, and just a sour taste really for Tanaka as his last start doesn't go the way he would like it to go.
2 balls and a strike. The count to Alan Craig on the ground for Drew. Well, the postseason begins Tuesday with the AL Wild Card on TBS. Continues Wednesday. The National League Wild Card game is on ESPN. Then our coverage begins Friday with the National League Division Series on Fox Sports 1. Check local listings for the games and start times in your area. And as we talked about earlier, just a couple of pieces of business left to determine the complete postseason picture. Who's going to win the AL Central? Who's going to win the NL Central? 9 out of the 10 postseason spots have been spoken for. Pittsburgh still with a chance to catch the Cardinals in the NL Central. Same Kansas City and Detroit in the AL. There's a drive into the corner, slicing off the wall in left. Garrett Cicchini with his second double of the day.
That is a perfect example of what a left-handed hitter, i.e. Wade Boggs, and how you can make a living. A lot of balls just don't seem to slice as much here for some reason. This ball was just popped up. This is going to be an out in a lot of scenarios and a lot of stadiums. But because this wall, which provides for doubles for a lot of left-handed hitters and singles, you can see why, again, John Farrell reiterating we need some left-handers in our lineup to help play a little bit better offensively so that teams don't just stack the right-handed starters and right-handed relievers against us.
Here's Rusney Castillo now with a runner at second and 1 gone. Only one American League team this year has a worse record in games started against right-handed pitching. Castillo with a bouncer. Jose Pirela puts a glove on it. Tried to come in behind the runner. Now Cicchini's caught up and tagged out. Throw into second is in time to double off Castillo. A most unusual inning-ending double play.
This is a clinic on how you get it done. There's only one guy that really didn't know where the runner was, and that was Brendan Ryan. But he quickly turned around and got him in a rundown.
Still 9-0 Boston. Football returns to Fox's 16th ranked Stanford squares off with Washington. Then number 7 Baylor battles Iowa State. Coverage at 4 Eastern on Fox, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. And a first pitch pop up off the bat of Yuri Perez makes for 1 out for Joe Kelly in the top of the 5th. Perez, Ichiro, and then for a 3rd time this afternoon, the DH Derek Jeter, who is not on deck.
It's going to end with a single.
Yeah, Francisco Cervelli's on deck, and that would signal the end of the day for the Yankee captain.
You know, we were pondering before the game what his action would be tomorrow and whether he decides to do the same scenario of a couple at bats, or does he end his last at bat with a single? Does he play tomorrow, in other words? And one will find out. We will find out to see how Derek Jeter ends his great career. But a lot has changed since that man donned a uniform in Yankees.
Yeah, a lot has changed at Yankee Stadium. A lot has changed in baseball.
Yeah.
Since Derek came to the big leagues in 1996, for sure. 2 balls and a strike to Ichiro. The 10-time All-Star is 0 for 2 so far today. That one past Cicchini, though he put a glove on it to slow it down. Ichiro will wheel around the bag at first with a 1-out single. Among the things that have changed since Derek Jeter made his major league debut, well, the Expos are now the Nationals. No baseball in Montreal. They relocated in 2004. There have been 18 new ballparks in his vintage, including the one he calls his home ballpark in the Bronx. Instant replay was introduced, and that might have changed some of his history with the Jeffrey Mayer play at Yankee Stadium. Cecil Fielder was the highest paid player back in '96 at $9.2 million. In '95, that is, and it's Zach Greinke this year at just under $30 million per year.
I also believe the Berlin Wall was still standing, and Ronald Reagan was running for the 2nd term when he started. Close.
Not quite that, but I get what you're saying. On the ground for the 3rd baseman Cicchini, and an inning-ending double play off the bat of the pinch hitter Francisco Cervelli. The end of the afternoon for Derek Jeter. With this base hit, the end of his career. 9-0 Red Sox this afternoon. Next is sponsored by Chevrolet. Find new roads. 9-0 Red Sox going to the bottom half of the 5th inning, and Francisco Cervelli does nothing more than pinch hit for Derek Jeter, and he is roundly booed at Fenway Park. I mean, the Yankees are used to getting booed here for different reasons.
Yeah, that was come on. There's some more at bats from Jeter that we were going to honor, but 2 was all he needed.
2 is all we get this afternoon. Bryce Brents leads things off in the home half of inning number 5. Brents, Vasquez, and Betts for the Red Sox. I'm always reminded of the unusual scenarios that accompany booing when I hear stuff like that. None more unusual than when Rick Manning, as a Brewer, was booed in 1987 for winning a game with a walk-off hit. And he was booed by the County Stadium faithful because Paul Molitor was on deck, and they wanted another chance at him extending his 39-game hitting streak, so they boo Manning for winning the game. Bouncing ball for Ryan at third, and 1 away. I know that everybody that's got a ticket for tomorrow's season finale hopes that Derek Jeter plays. Joe Girardi's aware of that. The decision is squarely left up to Derek himself. And you hope that maybe in taking 2 plate appearances today at DH, that means that there'll be a little gas in the tank to play tomorrow. No guarantees. I know that's the hope of all the fans around here tomorrow afternoon for sure. Here's Christian Vasquez now.
What's amazing is you think about Jeter's first game, and now that he's batting DH in one of his last games, the question was posed, who was the DH when Jeter made his debut, which would have been in Seattle? And none of us could come up with it. It was also the initials DJ, but it was Deion James.
You could have given me 100 guesses, 1,000 guesses.
There it was, 0 for 5 with a strikeout. So he started his career way out west, and it looks like he's going to end his career way out east.
Yeah, he's even said, and said it before this series began, that if he couldn't end his final game at Yankee Stadium, next best place is Boston. With all the great folklore between the Red Sox and Yankees, the memories here, the many visits here within the division as Vasquez strikes out.
Yeah, they've had, for those who may argue there's better rivalries, I don't know if you can say there are in sports, that Boston and New York really despise playing each other, really enjoy the battle of what has been a historic franchises. And of course the Red Sox have won some championships of late to break that drought. But it really is. It's usually about 45 minutes to an hour added on each game time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And having spent a short period of time here, they don't give you a piece of paper to explain it. It's just infused in you. You kind of know that other team is not well liked.
Well, let me ask you this, though, because you played in Boston for a short time in your career. You've covered this. You've watched this. It certainly isn't what it was when Thurman Munson and Carlton Fisk really disliked each other. In fact, you could even use the word hate. They didn't like each other at all. It was a real blood feud rivalry back then. It was ramped up again when Pedro Martinez was here with the Who's Your Daddy stuff. That was another good vintage of it. We'll continue those thoughts as we continue this afternoon. Still 9-0 Boston. sponsored by Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of Major League Baseball. And by The Judge from Warner Brothers Pictures, in theaters October 10th. Well, a city that fashions itself #1 in just about everything would be more than happy if its official number were the #2 from here on out. In fact, the last single-digit number available for the franchise. And after tomorrow, it will be put out of circulation forever. Austin Romine leads things off in the New York half of inning number 6. On the ground at third, a great play by Cicchini, and the throw to first just in time to get Romine. Let's check in on the Pirates and Reds. Ryan Field has a game break back at the Fox Sports Studios. Oh, Ryan, thanks. There aren't many teams that are clicking the way the Pirates are down the stretch. As you see, just a 1-game difference atop the NL Central. St. Louis is in Phoenix again tonight. They've got Lance Lynn on the mound at Chase Field. Chase Headley now with 1 away in the 6th.
They got a ridiculous team ERA in September. They played 3 consecutive 1-0 games and won 2 of them. They're doing all the little things you have to do to win baseball games and put themselves in the playoffs with a possible winning the division, or at least a playoff scenario.
Bucks have won 10 out of their last 12. They've been playing brilliantly down the road. Virtually the entire lineup is hot down the stretch. Chase Headley sends a fly ball out to center. And Castillo's got it for out number 2.
Well, to your point, what we were talking about earlier, you would never have seen so many changes within the division. I think that's part of it. You see changes of players going from the Red Sox and Yankees. You see players meeting more so before a game than you ever would. And I think having been part of it, maybe the tail end of what was the Red Sox demise and then their return to fortune, it always used to be who's going to outdo each other in the offseason. Who's going to make the moves? The Yankees historically would always get everybody, but now you've got this jockeying back and forth. It's a lot more friendlier than it used to be.
Yeah, getting back to that rivalry conversation that we had, line to shortstop. I agree with you. It's not what it was, but it ramps itself up again really quickly, and it might be as soon as next year. Still 9-0 Boston. Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball, presents the walk-off. Great walk-offs are waiting at foxsports.com/Budweiser. Grab some buds. Xander Bogaerts leads off the home half of the 6th. The 2-3-4 batters for the Red Sox on top comfortably in the middle of the afternoon with J.P. Morosi, John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian here at Fenway. A rare September meeting between the Red Sox and Yankees that has no postseason bearing. Just to restate Derek Jeter's afternoon, and that was one of the big draws here today, certainly. 1 for 2 on the day. He did not take his scheduled third plate appearance. Instead, Francisco Cervelli batted in his spot. An infield single today for Derek Jeter. So he was able to coax one more hit, at least one more hit, out of that very familiar P-72 Louisville Slugger, of which the company made a lot in Derek's 20 years, JP.
Yes, Matt, and in fact, in speaking about the inevitability of Derek Jeter's number 2 being retired by the Yankees, Louisville Slugger actually announced this week the P-72 model is also being retired.
You know, that's significant, as that's a shot past Ryan into the corner and left. And Bogaerts is on his way into second with his second hit of the game. Is that not the same bat, JP? You can verify this, that Cal Ripken Jr., Robin Yount, a lot of other big leaguers have swung?
Yes, it's a very popular model, and even many active players right now are using it. And in fact, Matt, they'll still be able to continue ordering that bat, but under a new name. Yes, it is now going to be called the DJ2.
Interesting. I
Pretty
mean,
cool.
They could have done that when Cal Ripken Jr. retired too, right?
Yeah.
A player of equal stature to Derek Jeter, I will say, in one man's estimation. Here's Daniel Nava now with a slicing liner into the corner. That is a foul ball. I mean, you're going to get a great argument there. That is one that'll take us to the water cooler for the rest of our lifetimes. The greater player argument. Cal Ripken versus Derek Jeter. You could slice that up a million ways and never have a wrong answer.
Very much. The man who's at second base, Mr. Bogaerts, of course, his number 2. I'm sure it's probably a pretty unique experience for him, who a guy that playing shortstop probably very much so looks up to Derek Jeter, and now will be, by all accounts, the future shortstop for the Boston Red Sox.
A base hit back up the middle for Daniel Nava. Perez throwing home. Bogaerts scores without a play. An extra base for Nava on the throw to the plate. And it's 10-0 Boston. So we know who's going to be the shortstop in Boston next year, right? Xander Bogaerts,
Yeah.
you mentioned. What about in the Bronx? Haven't had to think about this for a long time.
I have not, and there's some interesting choices. Of course, some are free agent, the rest are not. They're all tied up, of Andrews and Starlin Castro. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Starlin Castro could be a good fit here because of the amount of shortstops that the Chicago Cubs have. Now, a trade would have to take place for that to happen. Everybody thinking Hanley Ramirez would be the natural fit because he's a free agent. They could spend money to get him. I just have this inclination that maybe Starlin Castro.
Here's Yoenis Cespedes now. 10-0 Boston. 0-1 to Cespedes as that one's dribbled foul. Yeah, I could see that. There's been a lot of conversation about Troy Tulowitzki if the Rockies decide to aggressively shed veteran payroll. You know, the Rangers might be closer than this year's record would indicate toward a bounce-back season if they get full health next year. I don't know if they'd be inclined to move Elvis Andrus. First year of his new deal starts next year. That's a possibility, but I hear you on Castro. There are too many shortstops ready to play in the big leagues and only one place for those guys to play.
Yeah. Well, Bogaerts has made some pretty big adjustments since the beginning of the year defensively. Of course, he's worked with Butterfield and made some really shortstop here is a big hole that was missing after Drew was not re-signed, and the pitching staff and everything that didn't go well at the beginning of the season, a lot of eyes were on Bogaerts and whether or not he could play that position. And I think his adjustments have been well spoken lately. And offensively, that's where he's going to be known for most of his stats.
You know, when you talk about the Red Sox shortstop spot as Cespedes strikes out, remember a time when a young Derek Jeter was compared to a young Nomar Garciaparra? I mean, their careers were on parallel tracks for such a long time, and Garciaparra was the batting champ, viewed at the time as the guy with the bigger offensive upside. 20 years for Jeter, 19 combined years for the Red Sox lineup today. But I think the comparison is better. You should take a look at that again, man. It used to be Nomar to Jeter. I think the better comp is Carl Yastrzemski to Derek Jeter, because he has played his entire career here. He was a franchise icon. It's a bolt lined right to Ichiro, and Craig is out number 2. Since the last Nomar Garciaparra All-Star appearance, that was in 2006, Jeter has gone on to play in 7 more. Nomar Garciaparra had a fabulous career. He is regarded as an all-time Red Sox player for sure. But the test of time kind of bounces in Derek's court.
Yeah, sure does. An interesting note, when I had that brief stay with the Red Sox, I faced Nomar Garciaparra as he come back to Fenway Park. The longest ovation I have ever seen or heard at home plate. He was very appreciative that I waited the 3 to 4 minutes, whatever. It was literally tremendous ovation. When he kept stepping out and he kept, tipping his hat as anyone would do. But they certainly very revered here as a Red Sox.
Yeah, no doubt. Took a well-deserved place in the Red Sox Hall of Fame this year with Pedro Martinez and Roger Clemens. You don't always stay on the same career path. They used to compare Robin Yount and Roy Smalley back in the day, when both were high offensive upside shortstops. 2 strikes, the count to Garen Cecchini. Well, the last time the Yankees replaced a captain, it was 1996 when they traded for Tino Martinez and replaced Don Mattingly. Now, Tino was not made the captain, but they had to replace the outgoing captain somehow, and they did it with an experienced veteran player, lending a little to your argument that maybe a guy like Starlin Castro would be Bronx bound. All remains to be seen. The strikeout recorded. 1 more for the Sox, who are on top 10 zip. Sox as we hit the top half of the 7th inning this afternoon with John Smoltz, J.P. Morosi, Matt Vasgersian. A day that started in celebration of Derek Jeter and one that has turned into a rather lopsided Red Sox lead. Stephen Drew leads things off in the Yankee 7th.
I got to say, I remember the first time I met Derek Jeter. Personally, other than the fact that we played against each other in '96 and don't really want to go into details on how that turned out. Didn't turn out very well for us. But he was Rookie of the Year in 1996.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him and his parents being from Michigan. Matter of fact, that year, Pat Henkin had won the American League Cy Young, and I was fortunate enough to win the National League Cy Young. It was a pretty good day for the state of Michigan. And he was very skinny and you could tell very athletic. And what a start to a career by winning the Rookie of the Year and then accomplishing all that he did. Of course, analytics and numbers are always going to find ways to pick apart something that wasn't as great as people want to remember. But that's what's so great about Derek Jeter, is he always found a way to be in the right spot at the right time and make plays. And that's one thing that statistics cannot measure, and that's one thing that the Yankees will miss forever, is a man that was prepared to do the things he had to do and was always at the right spot and loved the moment.
And a swing and a miss by Stephen Drew. And I don't think Derek Jeter's ever been in a better spot than the spot he was in October 13th, 2001. Game 3 of the ALDS in Oakland. The A's with a 2-0 series lead. Mike Messina nursing a 1-0 lead. And then Jeremy Giambi thrown out by Derek Jeter, who was inexplicably able to get there and make a ridiculous play home to get the non-slide of Giambi. Messina would hang on to his lead. The Yankees would win Game 3. They'd win Games 4 and 5 and snatch one back from the A's. Something that really changed the course of history for two franchises. As Jose Perella sits one into the gap in left center field. He's still going on the third with a 1-out triple. You know, if Jeter doesn't make that play, it could have been viewed as an interruption in those Yankee dynasty years. They went on to the postseason in 10 of the next 11 seasons after 2001. To hear him tell that, he was in the right spot. It's just the throw he was able to make was something nobody saw coming. It's not that he was in a place he shouldn't have been. He was in absolutely the right place. In fact, the Yankees, after that play, went on to practice it. That's how perfect a baseball moment it was. And Eric Chavez, who played on that A's team in 2001, who was among those heartbroken by it, later went on to play for the Yankees and was shocked in his first camp in Tampa when he saw them on a backfield running the play that ruined what could have been his best chance to go to a World Series.
Yeah, and that was back in the day where first 2 games for the better record team started on the road of a best-of-5 series. Is that how? I remember that's how it played out, right? 2-3.
You're right.
So yeah, that changed the organizational direction really for Oakland. If you think about what they were trying to accomplish and what they would have accomplished. For Derek Jeter, I think back in knowing this year was going to be it, and always you want to go out on top. You want to be at the best you're going to be, and it certainly has had some struggles, but he's gotten hot of late. But think about the All-Star game. And think about that last game that we mentioned at home. And just, you can go on and on and on about moments that he found ways to come up big and really change the face of what a baseball player is apart from statistics. That's what I love about what he's been able to do.
2 balls and a strike, the count to Brendan Ryan with a runner at third and 1 away in the top of the 7th. Well, as we know, there's a backstory to every story in baseball, especially one as notable as that one. Runner tags on the fly ball out to center, and Perella's able to score on the fly ball. The Yankees are on the board. 10-1 Boston. You know the backstory to the famous Carlton Fisk Game 6 home run in 1975 against the Reds, waving it fair and how the cameraman in the monster, his attention was taken by a rat, and that's why he stayed locked on Carlton Fisk, a story that's been told many times since then, and still one of the great ones. Well, the story behind Jeremy Giambi's non-slide in 2001 isn't as well known, but it's no less interesting. Eric Burns was all set to pinch run for Giambi. The problem was Terrence Long doubled immediately in the count, and Art Howe didn't have a chance, the then Oakland manager, he didn't have a chance to get Burns on base soon enough. If Eric Burns is on base, he's probably sliding, and he's faster than Jeremy Giambi, so that run might score, and the Jeter flip play never takes place. Worth another look, worth a million looks if you're a Yankee fan. Nobody more surprised than Jeremy Giambi to see where Jeter was and what he was able to do. And Tom Brenneman's call on that play, working for Fox Sports, as he still does, one of the best, most perfect calls on one of the most perfect plays in our lifetimes. Ten to 1 Sox. Afternoon will be the last time a single-digit number will ever appear on the back of a Yankee. Billy Martin's number 1 retired. Babe Ruth's number 3. Lou Gehrig's number 4. Jolton Joe DiMaggio number 5. Joe Torre had his number retired this summer. Number 7, of course, Mickey Mantle. 2 number 8s retired. Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra. And number 9, Roger Maris. And after tomorrow, there will be no more number 2 ever worn by a Yankee either. Pretty amazing.
It really is. I'm sorry, Matt. I was just thinking right there as you see him peering out over the fence. So many times you sit there and watch a baseball game. The transition for a professional athlete when he retires is a unique one individually.
A base hit by Rusney Castillo against the new pitcher Chase Whitley. Today's telecast is sponsored by T-Mobile and by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's to Budweiser. Here's to baseball.
What happens with the body, the mind, is unique. And when you know you're going to retire and you walk away from the game, that part's a little bit easier. per se than when the next year comes around and your body's used to doing the same thing over and over again. The amount of time you go in a gym, the amount of time you rehab, and then comes the real difficult part, at least for the guys that I've talked to, is that when that moment that you love so much more than anything else, the postseason comes around, that's when you really test everything that your body wants and used to doing. And I think for Derek Jeter, and really for Mariano and the guys who have made it known, hey, this is my last year, they have been preparing themselves for that process. And I just hope that they don't disappear from the game altogether. I hope at some capacity we get to see Mariano's involvement and Derek and his charity work and all that he's done.
Well, Derek Jeter's Turn 2 Foundation has been active for quite a while now, and he'll have a lot of time to devote to it in retirement. People have wondered, what is Derek Jeter going to do when he wakes up in the morning? He's already begun his post-playing career as a book publisher. Among the business pursuits he'll enter into more deeply over the coming weeks. And speaking of, Monday, Fox Sports 1 brings you a cinematic journey through Derek Jeter's final home game on Thursday. This historic event comes to life with an ending befitting a true Yankee legend. Derek Jeter, A Night to Remember, begins Monday, 7:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Terrific access in that piece, and of course the brilliant ending Thursday night. One gone now for Christian Vasquez.
This guy has been a pleasant find for the Red Sox, both throwing out runners, handling the pitching staff. He's been hot of late at the plate with the bat. John Farrell, what a last couple years have been for the new manager of the Red Sox, winning it all. This year couldn't have gone any worse, and now he's going to get an opportunity to go to Japan and carry on some all-stars over there and manage those guys.
By the way, I was reminded after talking about Paul Molitor's bid to bat safely in 40 straight games in 1987, it was John Farrell that ended Molitor's streak that year. Two gone on back-to-back strikeouts. Vasquez swings and misses. Time to check back in with Ryan Field at the Fox Sports Studios to find out what's coming up next. All right, Ryan, thanks. It's probably good that I'm not at that game. If I ever did a game with Kevin Hogan in it, every time he dropped back to pass,
Hogan.
Stupid, terrible. Here's Mookie Betts now with a runner aboard and two gone. 10-1 Boston. Yankees getting on the board for their lone run in the last half inning. The Red Sox with 8 runs in the second effectively made this one a laugher early.
Most of the crowd just hanging in here, enjoying a beautiful day here at Fenway. Late September. Seen the shadow now get almost to the mound, base of it. Normally anticipating the excitement of October and what it brings, but this year will bring some healing in the offseason and a whole new outlook for next year.
Yeah. And a revamped cast of characters. Two balls and two strikes. The count to Mookie Betts. Whitley's 2-2 is swung on and missed after the leadoff single. 3 straight strikeouts. Still 10-1 Boston. Time for our Domino's game summary. Visit Domino's.com. Derek Jeter playing in his next to last regular season contest. 1 for 2 on the afternoon and was pinch hit for prior to his third plate appearance. Masahiro Tanaka making his final tune-up start for 2014. Went an inning and 2/3. Just his second assignment since missing so much time with the elbow injury. And it was an 8-run second by the Red Sox that led to his early departure. Here's Ichiro leading things off in the 8th. And Mookie Betts is there to handle the liner one away. Follow every game with MLB.com at bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit MLB.com today. And a reminder, the postseason starts next week. Historic performances, heart-pounding excitement. Don't miss the 2014 postseason starting September 30th. Joe Kelly kind of rolling right along today. 7 1/3 in the books for him now. This officially the longest start of his career.
Yeah, Joe Kelly has impressed his manager in the stuff and grit and competitiveness of which you never really know from afar when you're playing against somebody. But he loves his makeup and really a big part of this organization moving forward. It's one of the known commodities of your rotation. Of course, Clay Buchholz is the other known commodity, but he has been up and down, more up lately since the injury and time away after a start in Atlanta. But Joe Kelly, a nice piece in the trade along with Alan Craig.
Just his 48th career start today. You know, just thinking back at that trade, a lot of folks surprised to see the Cardinals willing to part with it.
Yeah, I'll tell you the piece of that trade. I mean, his speaks for himself. Whenever you trade a big part of your staff, you got to get a big part back. So that's what Joe Kelly is. But I think Alan Craig becomes a huge piece. If he can get his lower half healthy and return to the form that he was with the Cardinals and such a clutch RBI guy, that's what the Red Sox are hoping that they can get in Alan Craig as well as Joe Kelly's performance of his promising future.
You know, both teams would like to think that they made a good deal there. And if it works out for the Cardinals and helps them go deep into the postseason, they can claim that as well. Whereas the Red Sox made that trade really for next year moving forward. Against St. Louis starting play with a 1-game lead over Pittsburgh atop the NL Central, and in action later tonight with Lance Lynn in Phoenix. As far as the Pirates, they have a 6-4 lead in Cincinnati in the 7th. That's on the ground, and in that shortstop hole is Bogaerts with really no chance at a play. An infield single for Cervelli. Kind of a refined Jeter jump by Bogaerts.
Yeah, the ball and the play that we've seen Jeter make so many times. Of course, this ball just too far away.
Here's Austin Romine now, his second plate appearance.
It really is amazing. When you're trying to judge trades, you need to give certain trades times, and time will determine how it values each club. You think about what the Red Sox did in the trade to the Dodgers, which inevitably let them go on to win the World Series, when now the Dodgers are trying to do the same thing with some of those components that the Red Sox once had. Same could be said maybe even for the Cardinals if they get another one of those runs where they traded a core of their team, and they've been known for a family and an organization that develops their players, and it may not have been well received at the time, that trade, but the fact that they got a veteran arms. I know that Masterson's in the bullpen, but John Lackey coming off a World Series championship team, maybe that piece helps them make a long run, if not get back to the World Series.
2 balls and no strikes to Austin Romine.
But what the A's and the Tigers did for me was the biggest push of, I know the A's don't want to hear all in, and neither does a general manager, because every year you hope that you're all in to win it all, but they made huge trades at monumental times of the of big stars, David Price and John Lester, and both teams have kind of, I want to say, not squabbled or squandered leads, but they're not as secure as you would have liked them to be after those trades.
Certainly in the case of Oakland. It's a base hit into the opposite field, and runners at first and second now. Time for Pepsi's Real Big Things You Need to Know about, of course, Derek Jeter, a .593 career winning percentage. Leads active players. Again, this is just the third game he's ever played in 20 years that is a inconsequential game, rather, with the Yankees having been eliminated. A bunch of multi-hit games, fourth all-time on that list, and second most career games at shortstop. We could keep going in that, too. Eighth most games in singles with a single team in Major League history. You play for 20 years, you're going to get on a lot of lists. Nothing in one, the count to Chase Headley, batting with one away and runners at first and second.
Well, there's a lot of statistics, like you said, you can pick from. No one's ever going to have more postseason hits in the history of the game than Derek Jeter. In my opinion, that is pretty incredible to his team and his clutchness.
A bouncer for Craig that he's able to slow down. And as Betts gets to it, it's an infield base hit for Chase Headley to load the bases with one away. Let's check in with Ryan Field once again at the Fox Sports Studios on another game break. Ryan.
Number 24, Chris Young.
All right, Ryan, thanks. And if the Pirates hang on and win, they'll do some scoreboard watching from Phoenix later on tonight, where the Cardinals are in town. If the Diamondbacks can somehow upend the Cardinals and Pittsburgh hangs on to its lead, there will be a tie atop the NL Central headed into the final day of the season tomorrow.
And I'm telling you, there's something unique about playing on the East Coast in a situation where you put the pressure on first. And, of course, the Cardinals are in the West Coast, so they get to watch what's going on. They're going to have to be on go as the bullpen for the Red Sox getting heated up.
Ruby De La Rosa, one of the two pitchers warming up. Among those things that came from that big Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford Dodger trade of a couple of years ago you spoke of. Here's Chris Young now with the bases loaded.
Yeah, what's unfortunate for the Dodgers is that Josh Beckett was starting to pay dividends this year. He's having a nice year, threw a no-hitter, and then, of course, pretty much ended his year and maybe his career, if you think about guys hanging it up at the end of this year. I'm intrigued with Ichiro and what his decisions or what his future.
Yeah, I think it takes a back seat because the big story is just a couple of lockers away with Derek Jeter. Something tells me, and this is just pure speculation, that there will be some interest in Seattle to bring him back there in some capacity, even if it's only one of those one-day contracts to retire as a Mariner. And I'm not saying he's going to retire at the end of the year, but when it happens, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened with him wearing the Trident M. A base hit for Chris Young. Cervelli scores, one off, one on, still bases loaded with one away, 10-2 Boston.
That'll do it. Mr. Joe Kelly, good performance to end his year.
Yeah, here comes John Farrell. The Red Sox will make their first pitching change of the day here in the top half of the eighth, and Joe Kelly will lead en route to win number 4 as a Red Sox and exit to a nice ovation at Fenway. We'll be right back. Mobile official sponsor of Game Changers. Derek Jeter was not necessarily a game changer this afternoon, but for old time's sake, one last time on Fox. 16 playoff appearances, 7 pennants, 5 World Series rings, not one losing season, 14 All-Star campaigns, and a first-class ticket to Cooperstown in 5 years.
Which will set the all-time record, I believe.
For votes? I think
attendance, too.
Oh, attendance you're talking.
Yeah.
All right. The new pitcher for the Red Sox is rookie left-hander Tommy Lane. Stephen Drew, the batter, with a run in, and the bases loaded, 1 away here in the 8th.
Yeah, a little bit of a crossfire, kind of slower sidearmish type angle with his delivery. Two-seamer, slider, more like a cutter. You see how he could be tough on left-handers, kind of crossfires or throws across his body.
That's rattled into the right field corner, and it takes a skip up into the stands. So a ground rule double credited to Stephen Drew. 2 more score for the Yankees. It's a 10-4 ball game.
Unique configurations of Fenway Park, where the fans are right on top of the foul line.
So Tommy Lane faces his one and only batter. Enter Ruby De La Rosa. We'll be right back. At bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit MLB.com. Right-hander Ruby De La Rosa making his first relief appearance of the season, and doing so here in game number 161. Jose Pirela, the batter, with runners at second and third. 3 runs in and 1 away in the 8th.
De La Rosa's got a good arm and certainly could be a piece as you think about what they're trying to put together. Everybody auditioning, as we talked about.
De La Rosa effectively splitting his 2014 between Big League Boston and AAA Pawtucket. Misses the corner to Pirela, 1-1. You know, getting back to that Jeter Hall of Fame conversation, and you're predicting the most widely attended induction ceremony ever, stands to reason. Cooperstown, New York, very close to the home constituency, if you will. I was thinking about in terms of the percent of the vote.
Yeah.
And there's never been a player voted in with 100% ever. Tom Seaver came closest with 98.84. I don't know what those one or two guys were thinking that didn't vote Tom Seaver in on the first ballot. I mean, honestly, if Tom Seaver's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, if Cal Ripken isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, why don't those guys get 100%?
Yeah, well, Mariano's going to push that as well. I mean, you think about his position and what he did, but yeah, I agree with you. It's just one of those traditions that seem to, for one reason or another, right or wrong, continue to happen because it's never happened.
2 balls and 2 strikes to the Yankee second baseman. 2 gone in the 8th.
There's that live fastball that comes out of his hand, stays on the outside part of the plate. And not sure if it was the called swing or the check swing, but nonetheless, strike 3.
So 2 out with 2 on now for Brendan Ryan. You know, Joe DiMaggio didn't get in until his 4th year on the ballot. I know it was a different process then than it is now, and the overabundance of information and the micro scrutinizing of stats, that's made the whole thing a little cloudier. Ryan sends a fly ball out to center for Castillo. 3 in the Yankee 8th. It's 10-4 Red Sox. By the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball, and by Chevrolet, find new roads. The Captain's Road will lead to Cooperstown 5 years from now, but for this weekend at least, it's stuck here in Boston, and I say that as nicely as possible. He's happy to be here, as are we, in the midst of a 10-4 Red Sox lead. And Boston fans finishing up their daily rendition of Sweet Caroline. Xander Bogaerts ready to lead things off in the home 8th.
Yeah, I can truly say I've been part of a lot of cool things in baseball, and to compete against Derek Jeter, of course, was a challenge in itself, but I respect what he's done, and to now get to call one of his last games, it truly has been a privilege, and one that I've been an admirer of his from afar. Obviously would like to have beat him more in the World Series, but truly a champion. And I wish him well in his retirement and endeavors after baseball, because he's been good to the game.
Bogaerts, Nava, and Cespedes here in the 8th. The Derek Jeter farewell weekend, and with the big celebration Thursday after the dramatic win at Yankee Stadium in his home finale, the story has really transcended sports. It's not just being talked about on sports format media. It's late night TV, it's morning shows, certainly not limited to television, radio, print, every form of electronic media. Everybody has something to say about Derek Jeter's exit. There are a few on the sidelines that wonder what all the fuss is about. Well, a 20-year career in Major League Baseball is exceedingly rare. A 20-year career with the same team is almost unheard of, to the degree that we might not see this again. Bogaerts sends a drive out to center. Yuri Perez is out there in the sun, banging against the wall to put it away.
As you said, he was battling that sun. He's got his glasses on, and of course he's going back trying to figure out the track on the wall. It's one of the thicker and longer tracks because of the configuration of the stadium. So when you get to the track, you usually have so many steps to get to the wall, but here it's just a little bit bigger because of the oddness of how it's shaped.
One gone now for Daniel Nava. Three singles, 3 runs batted in. Nava was hit by a pitch in the 3rd.
I think the other thing that people saw that night was an uncomfortable Jeter. One man trying to hold his emotions in check, which he had for all of his career. He's normally, apart from being hurt, always been and seemed comfortable, and you could tell he was taking deep breaths. He was being honest.
Into right center, Ichiro yielding to Perez. Well, if you missed it earlier, Derek Jeter had 2 plate appearances as the DH today, and in his second beat out this infield chopper. Everybody's hopeful that Derek plays tomorrow, but if he doesn't, that will go down as his last major league hit.
And I think everybody who watched the game, and I know I watched as much in every inning that I could, appreciates what that feels like, and the vulnerability of a player that had played his whole career and done it the right way and felt like, oh man, please don't hit it to me because I might boot it or I might throw it away. And like he said, the way it ended actually ended probably better for him, because it would have been maybe too emotional to have that scenario play out in the bottom of the 9th or top of the 9th with the lead.
0-1 to the pinch hitter, Carlos Rivero.
And I'll tell you another thing that kind of goes unnoticed. Kudos to Buck Showalter for, in the midst of his team trying to get home field advantage, maybe in normal circumstances may have walked the runner to set up the double play with Brian McCann on deck. Can you even imagine that thought to come across your...
Boy.
And so he was in a no-win situation, and as it played out, Jeter gets the hit.
Coming up in about 20 minutes, kickoff between Stanford and Washington. Gus Johnson, Charles Davis, and Molly McGrath are standing by. Stanford and Washington coming up next on Fox. A ball and 2 strikes to the pinch hitter, Carlos Rivero. Ball is crushed into the corner and off the wall. My goodness. And Rivero into second with a booming pinch hit double.
this is one that probably would have been a home run in just about every other ballpark, but because that wall is so many feet high, you see it just hits just inside the foul pole, just below the crest of the wall, and he had to leg it out for a double because that ball comes back pretty quickly off of it to the left fielder.
Fourth career hit for Carlos Rivera, and a guy that's not new to the party. The Indians signed him as a 16-year-old back in 2005. Spent a number of years in their minor league system. Was allowed to leave after the 2010 campaign. Spent a year as Phillies property, 2 years with the Nationals organization, signed by the Red Sox last winter. And getting a look here in September. Here's Alan Craig now with Rivera at second and 2 away. But seriously, do you ever see somebody playing for 20 years in the same uniform ever again in this industry?
I'd like to think so, but no. Chances are, you know, the way that the baseball is played today, the economy and all, or I should say the economics of it, doesn't lend for that to happen, even if it's a player's desire to do that. So it's going to be difficult.
To the ninth, 10-4 Boston. Ruby De La Rosa will be given an opportunity to sew things up this afternoon. 10-4 Boston. The Red Sox rolled with an 8-run second and never looked back this afternoon. And here in the top of the ninth, it'll be number 9, then the top of the order for New York. There's still a lot to be determined for the postseason. Tonight's schedule playing out might go a little ways in determining that. If Oakland can win in Texas, and they've got Jeff Samardzija against Derek Holland, they'll sew up that last wild card spot in the AL. There's one game of separation in the AL Central, or the NL Central rather, between the Bucks and Cardinals. And we still don't know who's going to be the American League Central Division champ. And between Detroit and Kansas City, which one of those two teams will go as a wild card team? One game there. Boy, even the Fenway faithful getting into the Derek Jeter chant this afternoon. Still 0-2 to Yuri Perez.
Thought it was interesting when we had the opportunity to talk to David Ortiz and maybe what he may be planning for and how does he plan for what has been an incredible career here, and gosh, an icon here in Fenway and Boston. I wonder how many years he has left.
Yankees down to their final 2 outs today.
I'm Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees, and you're watching Major League Baseball on Fox.
The Yankees are champions of baseball. The Yankees have done it again. Number 24. Well hit into left field. Back at the track at the wall. The first pitcher with one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop. Jeter hits it into the Yankees are back on top. World champions for the 27th time. Some of Derek Jeter's signature moments as they appeared right here on Fox Sports, and the Fox Sports family considers itself fortunate to have been able to watch 146 of his regular season games, of course 91 in the postseason. And on behalf of everybody at Fox Sports, a thanks to Derek Jeter, a collective tip of the cap, and a best wishes for all of his future endeavors. A ball and a strike to count to Ichiro.
He would normally be on deck. This would be a perfect time for the re-entry rule. Give one more here.
Is that another one of the changes you're petitioning the commissioner's office towards? Re-entry rule. I like the
No,
NFL.
but I've heard it being thrown about, you know, where I'd like to see the star have an opportunity to hit one extra time maybe in a given point in the game. But no, I'm not going to go that far.
And a base hit for Ichiro, his second of the afternoon. Well, the postseason begins on Tuesday. The American League Wild Card on TBS. Wednesday, the National League Wild Card games on ESPN. And then our coverage begins Friday with the National League Division Series on Fox Sports 1. Check your local listings for the games and start times in your area. Give me a John Smoltz prediction coming out of the American and National League. Who do you think's armed for a deep run?
You know, at the beginning of the year, a lot of the picks that I had were looking good for the longest time, and they still could come to happen. And it was Detroit and Washington and those staffs that I thought they had.
Francisco Cervelli rangs one against the wall in left.
I thought the overall depth of both staffs were going to get them deep in the playoffs. Now Washington's in prime position to do that. Of course, it looks like they do have the best record. But Detroit has shown just so many signs of holes, you know, of weakness a little bit. I still maintain that the front three, Verlander's last 2 starts have been pretty good, that they have a good chance to represent the American League. Sure would like to have seen what the Angels could have done with a healthy staff, and they still have an opportunity because they have the best record in baseball in the American League. I think you could pick next year's March Madness 64 winners a lot easier than you could pick and determine what's going to happen in baseball with these playoffs. It's that intriguing. So many different things can happen in your matchups. The Dodgers, of course, the question mark in their third starter. Can they have Ryu available? You know, that's a huge difference maker if he's not there. Of course, Clayton Kershaw, my gosh, what can you say? The must-see pitcher when he pitches.
0-2 the count to Austin Romine. Well, in terms of the more immediate future, and tonight with only one game between Kansas City and Detroit atop the AL Central, the Royals are in Chicago tonight with Danny Duffy against John Danks. And the Tigers are home once again with Minnesota, a team that's given the Tigers all they can handle, by the way. Ricky Nolasco and Kyle Lobstein.
I think the Minnesota Twins are responsible for a huge hike in the team ERA, as they've given up a ton of runs.
Two gone. The Yankees down to their final out on this day. And it'll be Chase Headley here with runners at the corners.
Let's not forget, the Giants have won in the last 2 even years. 2010, 2012, and it's 2014.
Yeah. Now the Giants perhaps laying in wait in that regard. Headed to the National League wild card game next week.
They got to go to Pittsburgh, right?
Or St. Louis.
Oh, that's correct. We still have that business to figure out.
Yeah.
That's correct. I felt that wild card, if it were to be between Pittsburgh and San Francisco, I thought that was a big advantage. If Pittsburgh could have chased down San Francisco, the trek they would have to make from the West Coast coming east. And then, of course, you know, if they were able to win, then on to the next city. That's when you're packing for the unknown for that one-game playoff.
Well, one last game on the regular season schedule tomorrow afternoon. It's going to have pennant implications perhaps in a handful of cities. Not the case here, but certainly there'll be interest here with Derek Jeter available to play for one last time. And of course the hope is that Derek does play tomorrow. Again, that decision up to him. Joe Girardi visiting with us before the game. It's up to Derek what he wants to do this weekend. Had 2 plate appearances at DH today. Remains to be seen what tomorrow's lineup would look like. Yankees down to their last strike. And on this day, a part of Derek Jeter's final weekend, it's the Red Sox. Winners 10-4.
Yeah, it wasn't as eventful for the Yankees as they would have liked. Derek Jeter got 2 at-bats, and right now he's ending on a base hit.
Final score this afternoon, 10-4 Boston. For John Smoltz and J.P. Morosi, Matt Vasgersian saying so long from Fenway Park, where it was a Red Sox win, but it was kind of all about Derek Jeter. Coming up, we'll get you out to our college football coverage. Stanford and Washington is up next on Fox. Gus Johnson in Seattle right after a short break. Thank you to number 2. College football is next on Fox.